We have just concluded Obduction, and this story and experience has many important messages that stuck out to me. As you can probably tell, I am not using my normal style of recording for this analysis video. I am just using my desktop capture today, as at the time of recording this, I have I guess you could call it an injury on my foot, and I'm unable to stand and walk for an extended period of time. So for this video, I have decided that it would be better to record at my desk. This will not impact the video itself too much, just the visual of me walking around as I discuss my thoughts with you. Obduction was interesting, to say the least, both in the journey itself and in the particular way in which I personally experienced it. While these adventures we go on have the same overarching story for all of us, we can and will gather individual experiences and messages based on personal life experience. The ways in which certain aspects of the story click or the connections we make are all based on what we as individuals have gone through in our own personal journeys through life. I don't mean have gone through in just the negative sense either. That phrase seems to have a negative connotation nowadays. We can have just as much connection with a story that stems from a positive experience we have had. Going forward in this particular analysis and my Afterthoughts videos in the future, I plan on and want to not only give the themes and summary of the experience, but also my own personal takeaways and understandings. This will show my views and how I look at various different situations and could possibly show a different point of view from your own, as well as could help you better immerse into the many worlds we delve into and look for your own unique connections and messages. I don't claim to be an expert or knowledgeable on any particular subject. All I am is a dragon looking for adventure and wanting to learn and experience as much as I can along the way. With that, let's look back at our journey through Obduction and get into the themes of a home and found family, mindfulness and failure, and the illusion of perspective. Welcome to the Dragon Den. My name is Winter, and these are my afterthoughts of Obduction.
If everything's connected, we'll be headed on.
They have like a base 4 numbering system. Oh, you know what? This is Riven. This is a school in Riven teaching us an alien numbering system.
It's probably not safe here. To be blunt, we're getting ready for a battle.
This be unexpected.
Just be cautious with who you trust.
We are doing a bit of a change to the formatting of how I present my thoughts in these, what are more or less becoming video essays on the various journeys we go on. Instead of starting with a summary of the story and setting, we are just going to jump into the analysis, and as needed, I will weave in the story to better flow and emphasize the points and reasonings that I have. When we entered Obduction, there is already a sense of mystery as we walked through the dark forest. The night sky is pierced by the flashing of lightning, and then the purple of the Ambassador Sea as it flies through the air over the lake, reflecting its purple awe-inspiring trail in the water below. Awe-inspiring is an apt term. As we walk through the abandoned campsite, a voiceover plays.
That's where all of our new stories begin.
Later, we realized it was Farley we were listening to, as she also explains how every single person that got swapped by a seed felt an awe in the moments leading up to the swap. It was like the light and seed was intentionally drawing them in, drawing us in. Then we swap and end up in Hoonrath. This was a mining town from the desert of Arizona that used to be called Hartnell. However, when Carl Hoonrath took over as mayor after the swap, the town was renamed in his honor. A quick Google search into the surname Hoonrath shows that it is German of origin and is a nickname for an unfortunate person. Ordinarily, I would comment on how this name is hilarious given the situation and potentially a Easter egg of sorts. However, this name actually has some implications to the nature of the story of Obduction that we will look into later. So just keep this in mind for now. I should have had that level of mindfulness and awareness during our time in Obduction. Due to my non-observant attitude in many places during our journey, we missed or did not understand crucial pieces to the overall puzzle of the story that is Obduction. Because of this, we did end up with the quote, bad ending for the game, where we, with the help of CW, swapped the town of Hoonrath back to Earth. However, Earth is in what appears to be the aftermath of some sort of war or attack. smoke rising from the destroyed buildings and craters from what appear to be a bomb explosion sites dotting the Arizona landscape. During the final stages of the game on Soria, we actually get a chance to see what modern-day Earth looks like. Even though we were warned several times that things would not play out like the obvious narrative says, it was hard to find the alternative to the path that was being laid out in front of me by CW. It was hard because I was not being mindful or paying attention to the different clues that were being given by notes, audio recordings, and visual identifiers that would have told me not to plug the battery in. Battery being the difference between the optimal ending and the not so good one. I think the reason why it was difficult for me to piece things together story-wise has to do with several factors actually. One being my mind was not fully focused on the experience in front of me. If you watch my Obduction series, and you know that I faced many technical difficulties during the 16 episode run, starting in VR and then changing to desktop because of a invisible wall glitch just being one of the many and most notable to you, the audience. I am not defending my lack of mindfulness on these, as these were distractions. One of the key factors of mindfulness I have come to realize is being able to ignore these distractions and deal with them while staying focused on what matters. Calling back to my Dark Descent analysis, this is one of the quote-unquote failures that I need to not run from, instead embrace and learn from. And this mistake that I made can be seen all over my Obduction series, from the various technical difficulties to not connecting the dots on many clues and even not learning the Villian number system until after the fact. I am pointing all this out to you for several reasons. One, to emphasize one of my major points from the Dark Descent analysis. Also, to show that while I am no specialist, extraordinary personality, or expertly knowledgeable on any particular subject, I am curious and want to learn and grow. I call attention to what I feel, for the most part, was a mess of a series, to show that even when you feel like something is a failure, or you not do as good of a job as you know you could have, embrace it, learn from it. Then it won't be a failure or something to be ashamed of. It is instead now a stepping stone on your journey to wherever you want to head. Coming back to the unnamed character that you play as, they also want to learn exactly what is going on and why. And through this journey, we meet several people, both humans and other species. Of note, besides the attack from the Mofang race, everyone appears to be coinciding and forming a larger community between the 4 cells that make up the world of Obduction. Each cell has swapped with another, so the outside of each cell is the other worlds in their entirety. Coonrath, or Earth, swapped with Soria, the Mofang's planet, and Marae, or the Villian's planet, swapped with Kaptar, the Arise planet. The 4 races lived together and created what seemed like a thriving society where technology and ideals were being passed around from race to race, and everyone was learning from each other. It almost sounds like a paradise. As I mentioned though, the Mofang race attacked the other races, ending the paradise and pushing the others into overdrive, looking for a way to get back to their respective homes, to reverse the swap of each planet. I could not find an in-game reason for what spurred the Mofang to attack other than just being a hostile race. However, this opinion of mine is actually falsified by the fact that several of the chambered people are Mofang. These Mofang told the other 3 races about the incoming attack, thus they were able to prepare for a counterattack and plan for returning home. The theory that I now subscribe to is one presented by Callum Traveler in his own analysis of Obduction. Link is going to be in the description below if you would like to look at his own. His theory is that the Mofang saw what was happening on Earth, that being a potential war that ruined the city in Arizona, that we can clearly see from the story itself. The Mofang saw this war and saw humans killing other humans, growing suspicious of the other 3 races because of this, and in fear ended up initiating their own war. There are several things that I could dig into from all this theorizing and plot development. The one that stands out to me though is actually the one that I feel is not really thought or talked about all that much, that being the concept of home and found family, or family that you choose. I do want to preface this by saying that I am personally blessed and thankful to have a positive and supportive biological family and home life. I do not want to give the impression that what I am talking about here is from personal experience, as it is not. This is a concept that I've only heard about a couple times through, at the time of writing this script, my 25 years of life. I have known and do know several people, some that I call friends and others that I don't, that have troubled home life in some form or another. Thinking about this is actually fairly depressing from my perspective with how common it is. I know there is no black and white in this topic. Every situation is different and there is no definitive answer to solve the problems of a troubled home life. There are instead the people that you choose to surround yourself with. These are your found family, and they are the difference in being able to get through the hard times. You need to choose people that are willing to be there for you and that you also want to support in turn. Motivation and camaraderie. You don't get to choose where you start, but you do get to choose where you go and who you bring with you. Those people could be biological, like in my situation, but they can also be found. And over time, those people will lead to others and those to others. Before you know it, you have a network of people that are all supporting each other. I like to think the words friends and family are basically the same. If someone cares about you, they will understand when you fall. They will understand your situation. Your found family will help. If not to solve your current predicament, then at the very least, they will make it bearable and manageable until you are able to get home safe. By home, I don't mean just the building that you sleep in, reside in. It very well could be that is indeed where you make home. However, home is where you feel safe and secure, where you can let your guard down. This can be seen from the different races in Obduction all working together, sharing knowledge and supporting each other even when war breaks out. Despite being completely and radically different types of species, I mean, look at the Arai. They are a hive-mind insect-like race, and yet were key in so many aspects of the four cells before and during the Mofang battle. They all found each other, and despite being different, became a family. Being a family does not mean that there will not be conflict. Very evident by the Mofang battle. What caused the family of Obduction to form a crack? How can you prevent your found family from breaking apart? The seemingly random change from peace to prosperity to discord and uncertainty is unfortunately very reflective of our own society. One single incident, and that incident can be so minor, can cause a crack in a family, friend group, co-workers, or even nations. And when not addressed and settled in the correct way, will cause fallout. The most drastic and potential fallout is seen in Obduction with the Mofang battle, resorting to violence because for some reason communication is not working. The most common reason for communication breakdown is what I call the illusion of perspective. What is the illusion of perspective? Another term for the illusion could be protagonist syndrome. One's own personal understanding or reasoning of something that gives confidence, but not just confidence, overconfidence to the point where that something is now black or white. Let's look at CW and his plan to get the cells swapped back to their proper planets. Cecil had this belief that these cells were, well, cells, keeping everyone trapped. To swap Earth back, the functionality of the cell needed to be disrupted. To achieve this, he built the battery to control the energy in the cell after destroying the bleeder and thus force it to swap back to Earth. The bleeder was a structure built to essentially keep the cells in stasis and prevent swapping. So once the tree built up enough power to swap, the energy was instead dissipated out of the membrane of the cell. There is actually a different perspective to consider though. At one point we come across Farley's journal, and it is revealed that she had some kind of spiritual understanding or connection with the cell itself. While the legitimacy of her spiritual claim can be critiqued and even potentially written off as nonsensical, what matters is the perspective and the conclusions she gathers from this spiritual awakening. Farley realizes that every person that has been brought to Hunrath was on the brink of some kind of disaster and potential harm or death right before the swap that initially brings them to Hunrath. A logbook in Farley's house shows what happened just moments before several people arrived. Samuel Karin was washed away in a trunk. Uziel Regenbogen was in an earthquake. Maria Galetto was in a bad storm while on a boat. Another note that I actually missed in my playthrough that can be found in the submarine room tells that CW was actually about to be put to death by hanging. Even our own character was apparently saved in the intro sequence for the game, we are walking through the forest, following the sea that we can see flying through the sky. Suddenly, though, we can tell that a storm is building up. The lightning in the sky, the trees slowly starting to shake more and more. Farley came to the realization that the abductions were actually saving people, that we need to let nature take its course and see where the four trees of the cells take us naturally. CW and Farley were close, but they did disagree on how to handle the specific subject. Farley believes that the battery should not be connected, as I said, let nature take its course, contrasting CW, who again wants to use the battery to control the swap back to Earth. If we decide to go with CW's plan and use the battery, it does work. The Earth that we swap back to, though, is destroyed and ruined from some kind of catastrophe or a war, like I mentioned before. If we decide to not use the battery, though, the swap takes not just Hoonrath, but all four cells to a lush and beautiful new world where all of the safe people, both human and alien, can start a new society. The message I got from this was that we can't overthink. Just as Farley was saying, nature needs to take its course and things will work out. Instead of centering on that, however, let's actually look at Farley and CW's perspectives. If we follow CW's battery plan, we get the ending labeled bad. However, this is in no way actually representative of CW's alignment as far as being an antagonist. Based on his life experience and research, he had come to his own conclusion, based on logic and reason. Farley came to a conclusion using faith and philosophy, the opposite of CW's viewpoint. Both Farley and CW were what we would consider allies to the protagonist, and we had to be the mediator between both their viewpoints to choose the correct path. Immanuel Kant's philosophical perspective is the motive and not the consequence of an action determine its moral value. The intention of CW is to go home, to get everyone home. This in itself is a noble goal. CW is not an antagonist, he is just, due to his personal life experience and understanding, unable to process Farley's viewpoint. That changes, though, when in what is labeled as the good ending, CW sees all four cells and their people make it safely to what is essentially a paradise, saved from personal injury or death, and a Earth that is more or less destroyed. He realizes the importance of evaluating and considering opposing views. Abduction simplifies this concept considerably, and I personally feel that it is very arbitrary that Farley's view is technically the correct choice. More often than not, in situations like these where there are conflicting viewpoints, both are correct and incorrect at the same time, and it is not so black and white. Abduction is trying to show us that we need to consider not just our own experience and reasoning, but that others may have valid points as well. The illusion of perspective is more or less a fog that covers and obscures any views that do not match our own as incorrect. While at the end of the day, it is perfectly fine to not agree with others' views, there may still be a merit in understanding them. What caused their viewpoint and what does it mean? Take parts of that viewpoint and use it to update and modify your own into an even better understanding. More importantly, we still need to accept those with different viewpoints. Just because of contradicting views, no one is any less valid than the next. Forcing your own perspective onto others causes conflict. Instead, accept them for how they are and converse. Listen to their perspective, then give yours. We'll learn from each other, and we will all grow, and your own views will be respected so much more than if they are forced. If as a race we can start understanding this, then slowly we will start tearing down the illusion of perspective. Wow, that was a lot. I find it really amazing how much we can gather from the adventures we go on like these. Such simple concepts can turn into long, convoluted philosophical debates with no real right answer, but are important to think about to develop an understanding of the world around us. Well, that was Abduction. I really hope I was able to spark some thought in you while giving a few of my own opinions along the way. Abduction was an experience that will stick with me for a while. I had some major growing pains while producing this series, and I feel even more confident moving forward having gone through them. On top of that, it showed, or rather exposed, several personal flaws within myself that I will start and continue to work on for probably the remainder of my time here on Earth. All that while still giving tons to think about from the several messages that I gathered. I would love to hear your own takeaways and personal thoughts on abduction and the topics that we talked about today. You could comment down below or join the Dragon Den's Discord server to join the discussion there. Thank you all so much for showing up, and I hope to see you next time in the Dragon Den. Good hunting, my fellow dragons. Lie safe.